Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our very first episode of Perfect Partnership TV. We've got 8 episodes in a series to bring to you every Wednesday, and we're going to be looking at everything to do with you, with your horse, and creating that perfect partnership.
And so we're going to start with your relationships. Because right now we're all in isolation and probably facing some challenges in your relationships that you haven't yet faced.
Can you imagine it though? I mean, we're all right at the moment. I mean, we're not killing each other yet.
Not yet.
But for some people that only see their partners, I don't know, maybe just for in the evenings, they're going to spend a lot of time together now.
Yeah, and some people don't even see their partners every day. So, we spend our time wanting so much desperately to have more time and spend more time with each other. We're always saying, I haven't got time to do this, I haven't got time to do that.
Well, that's what everybody wants, isn't it?
Well, that's what we say we want.
In theory.
But here you are with all that time. And so, are you sat at home saying, this is fantastic, I've actually got time with my partner, I've got time with my children. A lot of you obviously out there that at the moment aren't necessarily with your loved ones and that, and you're having to spend time away from them.
So who are these people, Matt? I mean, what sort of people are we talking about? Humans, obviously.
Well, obviously there's going to be people that are working in the NHS that aren't necessarily spending time with their family at the moment.
Was that wonderful what happened recently? Everybody showing their gratitude towards the NHS.
Yeah, it was.
Well, I did worry about everybody when they were meant to be, when we're meant to be, but in self-isolation, actually coming out of the doorstep. And I saw in some, I don't know if you guys saw any of that, but there were people that were actually really close together in like terraced houses, all clapping, which is amazing. But I did think, gosh,
bit worrying.
That's not quite self-isolation. No. But what a wonderful thing to be doing, and what a wonderful job the NHS are doing.
Absolutely. I think it's a hard time at the moment for everybody. There's lots and lots of different scenarios that we couldn't cover all of them. So
we're going to try.
Well, we'll try. But to be on a sort of more broad spectrum understanding of what's going on in our own mind at this time, regardless to what's going on out there in the world.
Yeah, okay.
I think is quite important.
So we're going to be looking specifically at your relationships with your horse. That's what the Perfect Partnership's all about, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah, it is. It is. Perfect Partnership is all about your relationship with your horse. But where does that start?
Well, it has to start with us. It has to start with us. We have to know ourselves. And we say this, don't we, when we go out to people on the tour. We talk about this. It's like people expect us to crack straight on with the horse, or I'm going to come in and do communication with the horse, then Matt's going to work with the horse afterwards out in the arena or the school or whatever. But actually sometimes it's like, let's just have a cup of coffee and sit down, because actually we want to speak with the human first. And sometimes a lot of the session is spent with just the human.
Well, yeah, because...
Depends, doesn't it?
Because ultimately, I think a lot of the time we get called in because people are viewing that the parts of their jigsaw puzzle are broken, and so they need fixing. But usually the main part of the jigsaw puzzle that's broken is us. And that can be in a multitude of different ways. It can be how we look at a situation. It can be how we're viewing what's happening. It can be how we understand what is happening, and also how we understand ourselves. So the biggest jigsaw piece to change.
That's the biggest thing, isn't it? Understanding ourselves.
Absolutely.
The mind is such a complex. It can be complicated, but such a complex thing, and it's just, it's such a difficult one, isn't it, for a lot of people?
It is, and there's so many different viewpoints. You have so much advice from so many different people on what should be happening, what shouldn't be happening, what you should be doing, what your horse should be doing.
Livery yards, they're fantastic for that. There's always an opinion from somebody else on the livery yard that you may be not doing something right, why don't you try it this way? And I know a lot of the time, because I've experienced it myself on livery yards, all through the years, that sometimes a lot of the time the people only mean the best, they only mean well, but it's sometimes not what we need. And we've got to remember at this time, when we're spending that time with the horses, we're in an extraordinary time at the moment with the coronavirus. And the time that you spend with your horses is going to be, well, it's not going to be, I mean, I talk to people all the time and they're saying they don't get that time now. It's like they have hours slots to go and spend with the horses at the yard. So that's your precious time when you're there. So I guess you don't need to be hearing everyone else's opinion.
No, and I think, but the interesting point to that for everybody is that when you'll start being affected by other people's opinions, it's quite clear that then actually what we're doing is trying to make sure that we have approval from everybody else about what we're doing, how we're doing it. And I think
always searching for approval. Humans, that's what humans do.
They do naturally, yeah, because we're like followers, we're a herd, we're sheep. We want to fit in. We don't want to be singled out, because if we're singled out,
so we're like lemmings.
Yeah, basically we are
standing and queuing up at the cliff.
And who generally puts themselves out there to be completely different to everybody else? Because look what our society does to somebody that is different, there to stand up for themselves.
Absolutely.
So it's no surprise that as a human race, we worry so much about what other people think of us.
We are. Human beings are worriers.
Naturally.
We have a lot to worry about, but it's about taking... See, I would talk about it, I mean, completely agree with you there, and I guess where I come from is it's, for me, taking that time just for self-love and going into meditation allows me to have that time for myself, to take away the overthinking that you talk about so much in the work that you do, and bring it back to this whole situation where it's just about ourselves, being in the moment, just about ourselves. But that's so difficult for people at the moment, Matt, in this situation. People are isolated, they've got a lot of time on their hands, a lot of time in their head to overthink. So what can we do about that?
Which makes it perfect time, absolutely perfect time for us to put in some time and energy to being in the moment. The only reason any of us are worrying is, to be fair, the only reason any of us are worrying is because we don't know what's going to happen.
This is true.
Whether we had this pandemic at the moment or not, none of us know what's going to happen tomorrow anyway.
So live for today.
Well, live for this moment now. None of us know that we're going to actually be here next week to do the next show.
But that's the concept, isn't it? We live for every day. No, I get it, Matt. And it's like, for me, and I don't know about everyone at home, but it's like, and we've talked about it, how we wake up every morning and it's like, yeah, I'm still breathing okay, my throat's not sore, I don't feel particularly like I've got a temperature, and every day feels like a blessing at the moment. Another day, and I guess in a way it's looking at it being a blessing, and that each day could be our last day. I don't want to be morose about it, but the reality to all of this, that we make the most of every day, and that includes everything in our lives, including your horses.
What this is doing, the way I see it, is it's highlighting us to live how we should be living anyway. Because now suddenly this threat of this virus, this threat on our health, on our actual ability to stay living, seems to be so much more real that we seem to be taking it a little bit more serious. But for me, yes, I totally agree, it is incredibly serious and it is a higher threat. But the way I try to live my life is that that's there all the time without living in fear of it. So that we spend our days living not recklessly as if it was our last day. So like...
Well, only if you're going to go out of lockdown.
Well, yeah. But I mean generally. But to live every day as if you may not get tomorrow. So you do today, you behave today towards others and towards yourself as if nothing else mattered.
And that's an amazing place for people to be able to get to, but that can be extremely hard for people, and we all struggle with that at times, let's be honest.
It can be a journey, can't it?
I'm hearing from so many people that are friends of ours, I mean, as you are, and they are actually taking this time to just get back to, well, I guess reevaluating their lives, looking at things that actually matter and what doesn't matter. We spend so much time looking at and living a life of things that we feel matters, and then something like this happens, and it's only then now that we get to see that doesn't actually really matter at all. People are spending more time, they're being more creative, they're I mean, gosh, what was it the other day about the kids, about some children we read about, where they're bored of spending their time on their phones. Can you imagine that? Children are bored of spending their time on the phones and on their iPads and everything, and it's like, wow. Well, you know, where the generation we all came from, we didn't have those things. So, you know, it's kind of like, okay, there's some good things to this situation.
Absolutely. I think there's loads of good things going to come from this situation. I think worldwide, it will hopefully give everybody a whole new perspective on the important things in life. And I think what we live in a time now where actually family time it's not valued as much, and then when you get the family time, you don't actually know what to do, because we're not used to just being. We're busy doing. We're either catching up on what we haven't done, or we're trying to get ahead of what needs to be done, and we're never actually in that moment of here and now. And this forced lockdown is making the majority of people be in the here and now physically, mentally. We're still trying to live in the what if happens.
It's incredibly difficult for people. I mean, you look at, I get it completely, but you look at the situation for like parents. They've got their children at home all the time, so even if they could go to work, they're going to struggle. They're in a financial situation where, let's face it, there's no money. There's literally thousands and thousands of people applying for universal credit, trying to find some way to get some money just to survive, living with that stress of it all. And of course, we deal with people with horses every day. So, and I know, and I've talked about it so much, that horses are such great healers. Animals are such great healers and teachers. And we've got this amazing opportunity now to spend that time with what really matters. In other words, with an entity that we can really learn from, and we can build a better relationship with, a better partnership.
Absolutely, because I've noticed it here, but the horses here now, there's obviously a lot less horses here at the moment.
What have we got? 5, 6?
5 at the moment.
And we went down from how many? Oh, I lost my cushion.
We went down from 32 to 5 in 10 days. And but just spending that time watching the horses, I'm loving the lockdown in one sense, because for me, I'm having much more time to connect with the horses and with myself again, instead of being so busy doing everything. And missing the little signs along the way, the little connections. I've had some amazing moments with the horses in the last sort of week or so.
Yeah, you have.
And
I've seen it. I've seen the difference in you having that time. I mean, the situation for you is you're working every day, 7 days a week now, looking after the centre. But you are. I'm seeing it in the evenings when you're working with your horses. How the difference, and I guess you've seen it with me. Have you?
Well,
you know,
I've seen a huge difference.
Felt so different myself.
You know, we haven't got anybody coming here anymore, and so it's just us and the animals.
Feels like we need to get the violin, doesn't it? But it's the same. We'd all need a violin in our house. Let's be honest.
But it's not that. It's about using that time in a positive way to say, okay, we're not doing what we were doing, but what can we do?
We're not doing what we were doing, but we're doing something different.
Absolutely.
This is a different situation. This is a situation we've never found ourselves in, albeit for the older generation of any of those that perhaps still remember growing up as kids in the war. For us, in our 40s, I don't know about you guys, but this is something that we've never encountered before. So, yes, what we're saying then, Matt, so it's taking something that's incredibly difficult, getting out of overthinking, and finding a way to make something amazing out of that situation.
Absolutely. And there's won't go into them.
Like me when I make a cake, you know, put all the ingredients in, hope for the best.
Chuck it in the oven.
Chuck it in the oven, all right, and what comes out,
that mean you're going to make us a cake?
Usually looks like a mess, so that kind of answered that.
But then I guess one man's mess is another man's beauty, so...
Thank you, darling.
That's very kind.
But anyway, back on track.
I think what I think for us horsey people, particularly those of you that are competing,
because we know you're out there, we know you're watching, and you're out there, and you're horsey. Them horsey gals, them horsey blokes, or
that's not going to be the case, is it?
I don't know. Who knows?
I think actually taking away a lot of the stresses of the pressure to perform, you will probably find your relationships with your horse will, if you're prepared to put some time and effort in. Now, okay, I understand at the moment, some of you probably can't get to your horses. Those of you can get to your horses, you probably have slots where you've got to get there and get out. But you haven't got the added pressures anymore of performing, of doing something, riding your horse in front of groups of people, because there are not groups of people around anymore. We've not got any competitions to prepare for, not got any exams to prepare for, any tests to prepare for. So all of these...
And generally no other people to give their opinion.
Exactly. So
unless you go online and read people's opinions on everything.
So all of these things that we actually take hold of and have as some form of importance, and actually what moulds how we ride, how we look after our horse, how we dress, how we act, a lot of that's been taken away. So I would challenge you now to start observing how different your relationship is with your horse by you taking that pressure away.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great idea, Matt. Yeah.
Diarise it. Just spend time with your horse, in your stable, in your field, and spend some time just focusing on your breathing and just being in the still of that moment and observe your horse.
I think this is really good to give people tips, some step-by-step guide from our experience and your experience of how they can get out of everything and be in that relationship and create a different relationship, a better relationship. Because we can always create a better relationship, can't we? There's always room for improvement in everything.
You can create improvement, development like that, providing you're prepared to learn. If you're prepared to just drop what used to be and accept that you can look at something a different way, instead of being defensive about it, that someone's telling you what to do. But the difference is making sure that that's coming from somebody that is actually achieving what you would like to achieve in the way you would like to achieve it. So,
but there's so much at the moment, isn't there? I guess we're another one of them with something online now, but there's so many different trainers out there showing different methods at the moment.
Yeah,
and I know that you've been watching some yourself at the moment. Tristan Tucker. Lots of kind of natural horsemanship methods, and I love that because being an animal communicator, I love the fact that we're getting back to nature and we're doing something from a natural way, a way where the horse is really going to understand what's going on. So therefore, communication in itself that actually really works. You very much believe in all of that, don't you? That's where you come from. From all the time I've known you, that's your methods, natural horsemanship, with its own twist.
I wouldn't say that I follow any program, but I learn a lot from other people. The other one is Warwick Schiller. I've been watching a lot of him recently, and it's great because I learn all the time. I spend my time trying to learn.
So you're great because you watch all that stuff, and then I'll put something on and watch all the horse fails.
For me, the better I can be me, the better version of me I can be, the better I can understand the horses, the spiritual connection, the whole circle, then the better coach I can be for everybody else that I work with to help them become the better they can be, the better they can have their relationship with their horse. The better we are, the better life our horse is going to have.
So when we got together and you started understanding another side to creating that partnership with the horse, which came from the communication side on a different level altogether, and you mentioned this with the spiritual side, and of course this is where I work from, How has that enriched your work? That's not coming from an egotistical point of view. That's me just saying to you, so you could perhaps explain to everybody, because you just mentioned it a moment ago, the spiritual side and having that all-rounded communication that you have now, kind of added another.
It's added another
element,
dimension,
another tool into your box.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
I think, and by me spending that time learning from you and learning how to connect on a more spiritual level, is giving me, instead of looking at physiology of, the horse is acting like this, so I need to do this, and I need to keep my energy down, it's gone to a whole new level of connecting my soul with that horse's soul. So we have a connection there of understanding, so that, yes, I've got to keep my energy down, but my intentions have gone. Whereas it used to be, I've got to make this improve.
Because you have a better understanding now.
Yeah.
We're all developing all the time. We're all developing and, learning as we go along. That's life, isn't it? Something to take for every day that you're here. Learn, develop. And that's what we're saying, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think since we first got together, I think would you feel that you've got another dimension to your connection?
Oh, absolutely,
with
Matt.
well?
I come out and watch you so much of the time, and it's like watching what you do with the horses, and just little things like, I know recently you were really sort of working on the whole taking more notice of the smallest of things that perhaps we don't take much notice of, which was just like what's going on with the horse's ears, the direction of the horse's ears. Are they listening to you? I think that'd be something brilliant to talk about at some point with everybody. Because
we'll do a demo of that.
Yeah, and you've been doing a lot of that recently, and that's one of these moments where I was like, you really look at it in a different way, and I love that. And you being at one with the horses and the connections that you have, and it comes from such a kind place. It doesn't involve spurs and whips or anything like that. That you never come from a place where you're bullying the horse. You're coming from a place where you're saying, I'm here, you're there, let's work together. And then obviously we come together and we're finding the best way to create that connection and that communication that just runs so fluid and wonderfully, doesn't it? When we get to that place. So let's look at it then, Matt, and I'll explain a little bit about what you could be doing from a communication point of view to build your relationships and make them stronger at home. Yeah. First of all, with you, Matt, then. So let's give some facts, some bullet points. What can people at home do when they go to their horse now to help enrich their partnership with their horse? Because they've got the time. So what can they do?
Right. And if we're going to be doing this, which we are, over the next 8 weeks...
Yeah, I mean, we're going to look at lots of different...
We'll add little bits in each week.
Yeah.
So, I think the first thing, and this is what I kind of some of the homework I set when I'm doing my online course.
Homework.
When I'm working with people doing my Think, Feel, Ride course, this is one of the first things I get everybody to do, and that is to spend that time, as I was saying earlier, spend that time in the stable with your horse or in the paddock with your horse.
So spend that time in the stable or the paddock with their horse, right?
Doing nothing.
Right.
With no intention. Don't go in there to groom them or to feed them or to pet them.
But not to be on your phone.
But go in with a book, maybe, if need be. But just be there. And take a notepad and pen and just observe what they're doing. Observe how much attention they pay to you. Observe how much more willing they are to move over or to be out of your space, or they want to be in your space, depending on what your horse is normally showing you.
Yeah, use our eyes and just see what's going on.
Yeah. And then take a diary of it so that you can start to look back and go, okay, my horse never used to walk up to me when I walked in the stable. I've been in for a week now. Every day I go and sit in the corner, they come straight up to me. Because
good idea.
A lot of stuff you will have dropped. So this is about your awareness, about being aware of what your horse is doing, but also being aware of how you feel when they're doing it. Even if, the last thing anybody wants to write down is, I felt rubbish about myself because my horse walked away. or I'm angry today because this happened.
But from my point of view, they're showing you something by doing that. So,
Exactly.
And that's about listening and observing in a different way. So, okay, so that's a really good step. So you're saying to take time, go into the stable or the field. You could perhaps take a book and just spend some time, sit there in the stable and observe the horse.
Yeah.
So it can't be a really riveting book then, otherwise we won't be observing it.
But it's about having that time with no intention of doing anything with your horse.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if your horse has been groomed. It doesn't matter if your tack has been cleaned.
Oh, we spend so much time worrying about that, people do.
Exactly.
You know.
The quality of your connection with your horse will improve way beyond what you would expect if you just take some time to just be with your horse.
And you just said it, time and quality. Quality time that you've got at the moment. I love that idea of just being at one in the stable, just sitting there and just observing. Because from my point of view, that's where I start with my communication. Bring my energy down and just be at one with the horse. I can't connect on an energy side with a horse if I haven't first just levelled myself down. I like to say it's like putting the gear into neutral. I go into neutral, allow the horse to come into neutral, and just be at one, sort of parked up, and then see what starts to happen. I love that. And you're saying with the diary, a fantastic idea at the moment.
Yeah, so just so that you can look back and go, that's where I was. This is what's happening. Because then once you've got the awareness, you can then make a decision as whether you're going to change that. But until you're aware of it, then you don't see that anything needs to change.
But we don't even get into that state of awareness until, like I say, we put ourselves into neutral and just let everything drop. And I know we're going to talk about it in another episode, aren't we, about this overthinking and how it connects with the horses. But just touching on that just slightly, it's about that as well, isn't it? You've got to let that overthinking go. To get into neutral gear, to be at one with your animal, you have to let everything go, everything that's worrying you. And what do you think, Matt? Because if people can't do that at the moment, maybe their loved ones are ill or there's so much going on, if they can't get to that place, I know we're going to talk about it in another episode, but at this moment in time, if you can't get to this place at the moment, then do they still go in and spend that time with the animal, with the horse?
Absolutely, because I think what you'll find is that your horse will help you to get to that place. With all the stuff that's going on right now, absolutely it's going to be a challenge to get to that place. But just for a moment, take notice of and understand that by you taking that time and giving yourself permission to drop thinking doesn't change anything apart from for you and your ability to cope with and deal with what's happening. So yes, we can have all of this going on. There could be relatives in hospital, all of that going on. But for you to feed yourself by just giving yourself that bit of time will enable you to be stronger. By not doing that isn't going to help them. So you may as well do it and help yourself.
I love that. I think that's fantastic. So we've got the diary from your side of things. We've got this diary. We've got this time spending. We're talking about being in a neutral gear and just being at one with the horse. Just starting to notice all the little things that are happening that perhaps we would take for granted, or we just wouldn't simply notice on a day-to-day basis with our busy lives that we've been having. What else can they do, Matt? What about the exercising of the horses? Because, I mean, obviously, it's nice to spend that time, but these are animals that need some time out. I mean, obviously, if they're going to go in the field, but for those that are actually wanting to lunge or do anything.
Well, it's even more important that you've spent that time to become self-aware and let your thinking drop and your expectations of what's about to come to drop. So let go of the outcome. Because otherwise what's going to happen, especially if you've got, I don't know, an hour's slot, 45 minutes slot, and then you've got to go so another livery can come and do their horse, Be very aware that you avoid allowing that to create stress and tension between you and your horse.
Of course, the outcome's going to come from having expectations in the first place,
Exactly.
or looking for an outcome's going to come from having expectations. What we're saying is get into neutral gear, spend some time with the horse, looking it from a completely different way, not having any expectations when you go in there. So your only expectations are what? You're going to just sit there and just observe.
Just going to be.
Just be.
Just be.
And then, of course, no expectations.
Absolutely.
I love that.
And I think that's going to be a way to help everybody just stay in that place, not just with your horse, but when you're at home, have no expectations of your partner or of your children. Just within yourself, have no expectations and just accept that everything is perfect just as it is.
Yeah, because everybody's going to react differently at the moment. I mean, you know, we all get into that place. I think I snapped at you a bit earlier on over something, such a minor thing. And I was like, what am I doing? And it's because I'm naturally getting into this place where I just want to keep it all together myself. And then that stems into just the house and how everything is. And it's like, we just have to be aware of that. But I guess we get to that place, you and me, where you know that's what's happening.
Yeah.
And you kind of just accept that I'm dealing with my own stress, you're dealing with your stress. We're not dissimilar to anybody else. We've got an understanding of keeping it together and letting stuff go that doesn't matter. But we have those moments, all of us.
Yeah, we all have human moments.
And I feel the energy build up in those moments. And I think to myself, what am I worrying about? Why am I getting up this? I'm actually all right at the moment, you know. And then we sit down and we understand. But I guess what I'm saying is, going back to what you've just said, it's understanding with our partners and people around us in the home that everybody is under immense pressure at the moment.
Yeah.
So give them that, allow that, you know. And everybody's got to work through it the way they've got to work through it. That's why animals are so important. This is why when you have that time with the horse, like what Matt's saying and what I'm saying, is make the most of that time when you're in the stable or in the field or just spending time with your horse. Because that's so valuable to you as a person, to you in your soul. And what I would say, going on from you, about the what we can be doing, I'd like to say from a connection point of view, from a communication on a spiritual level, which is where I work from with the animal, working on energy, bringing the two together, I'd like to say that it's pretty much the same as what you're saying. Again, you're in neutral, go in the stable, be in the field, be at one, maybe groom the horse. Groom your horse. Do something, if that's what you want to do, that's about connecting, bonding you both together and spending time together. And you know, I always feel for people, when I go out to see people, they get very nervous, their energy changes. So it's about, if it's just you and your horse, you don't need to be nervous. So just do something nice, bonding time with your horse. And like we've said, just observe what's happening. And for me, what I would say to you is, we're all capable of animal communication. You're going to have an amazing connection with your horse. An absolutely amazing connection on a level you could never imagine if you just let go of everything else, overthinking and worry, and just be at one with your horse. And then you can spend time together. And you'll be amazed at what will happen. Little things happen, don't they? It's happened for you, and it's like, oh wow, horse has just mirrored that to me, or it feels like that horse is showing me this. It's made me think about something. This is communication.
I had an amazing 2-3 minute connection with one of the horses on the yard the other day, who is normally, well, she's just who she is. She's wonderful, she's lovely. But I was just stood doing something in the stable, and she actually just walked over, put her head over my shoulder, rested her head on me, and just
This is Dora.
This was Dora.
Yeah.
And I was like, hello, sweetheart. And she just stood there. She didn't press on me, she just lay her head on me. And we just stood there for a few moments. And it felt so different. We were both understanding what was going on in the world, in that moment, with each other. And there was no expectation. I came back indoors and said to Richard, I had a fabulous moment with Dora. And it kind of made me feel quite emotional, because
how wonderful
it grounded
is this?
me.
How wonderful is this, that you've had that connection on another level because, of course, Matt, the horses are very aware of what's happening in the world at the moment.
Oh,
they
very
can
much.
see the changes. Your horses know that everything's is all different at the yard. Where's all the people? What's going on? Why is she not riding? Why have I just gone from the stable to the field? Why am I getting extra attention at the moment, but not actually, which is great, no expectation, because that's the good thing at the moment. There isn't as much expectations on the horses. But, you know, for animals that have become accustomed to a way of life, this is also very different for them as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's a perfect point that you've just brought up about Dora, because she's acutely aware of how everything's changed, because we're a riding for we live and you work for a riding for a disabled centre.
Yeah.
And Dora is situated in a stable inside the main area where all that goes on, and it can be very noisy. Well, it's not now. It's dead out there. Yeah. So the horse knows things are different. And for her to come to you and just put her head on your shoulder on your shoulder like that, what a wonderful moment, because she also needs to feel, she is looking for that security. These are herd animals.
Yeah.
And she's wanting to come to you. And she's saying to you, is everything all right? And she's seeing in you if you're worried as well.
Yeah.
And she's healing you, and also you're healing her. Valuable, valuable time we've got at the moment, everybody, to have that one-on-one with our horses in every area, from my side of it, from the communication, from the energy, and from your side, with just observing, because over the weeks we're going to be able to, we're going to put some of this into practice and help you to develop this.
We'll do some videos out there on the yard as well.
We'll show some of the horses.
Some demonstrations of various stuff that you can put some, what I call, human and horse practical stuff together.
Fantastic.
Which is a communication in a physical.
And I'll show you from my side of it some communication happening, and show you how, when you look at the horse, you can see a difference in the horse, the way the horse is behaving, and it's responding to me. And I guess when we're together and we work, that's what the perfect partnership's all about.
Absolutely. And it's connecting all of that.
Connect the dots together.
Because, and I think the difference for you and I is, although we became a collaboration of our two different areas of work, we both have...
Which took a long time to get to that place of working out how we would do that.
Yeah.
We knew it would work, but we just needed to sort out how. Yeah.
But what we've both done is I've completely merged into Richard's world as it was, like before we were together.
And I've took like a little step into you, because I'm not as... I mean, you know, I'm not... You've spent a long time doing what you do, and you've got an amazing confidence around the horses. I go in with the horse and work with them, and do you know what? This is proof of what you talk about. I mean, I know you'll get to talk about your Think, Feel, Ride programme at some point throughout the episodes. In fact, I'm sure we'll do a whole episode on that, which would be wonderful for people to find out about. But what I take from knowing you and knowing your Think, Feel, Ride programme and the whole ethos behind it is that it's letting go of overthinking in such a way so that it doesn't affect anything else. I love it.
But that's kind of my point though. So you've got that. Okay, we all have our human moments. So for me, when we have a human moment, it's kind of when we get into thinking. So we react to our thinking. Yeah. So your confidence challenges you sometimes with the horses outside of what is your work.
Oh, but this is what, I mean, when I'm with the horses, I'm completely confident. But you know what? I'm not a confident person with horses. But in that moment that I'm doing my work, because I'm working with energy and with spirit, I'm not actually have any capacity in my head for any overthinking. This is what I'm saying, why I get the whole thing about the overthinking and how it affects us. Because when I'm at work with the horses, there's no overthinking when I'm doing communication. So I've had horses do all sorts to me, and I've been all around I've done things, you know, I've worked with the horses in ways that I would, sometimes in my life, I'd be terrified of doing with my own horses. And I don't even know these horses. But when I'm there, I'm in the moment, I have the most amazing situations happening and experiences.
And I think that's...
it's wonderful, and there's no overthinking. Then I'll come back here and something will happen, I'll be like, oh. But you see, what I get from you is this amazing confidence that you've got around the horses, and anybody that's worked with you, they'll see that. Whoever's watching, if you've worked with us or you've worked with Matt, you'll know what I'm talking about. He's got this confidence that comes from such a genuine place, and it just brings through such a strong leadership for the horse, that the horse always naturally feels confident in itself because it has a leader. And that's what I see the most in you. And I guess that's how it works together for us both.
Because I think
we're creating strong leadership.
We've both intertwined so much into each other's understanding of how the world works.
Yeah.
And that's... So your development of understanding horses from a more natural horsemanship point of view, my understanding of horses from a more spiritual point of view and the soul-to-soul connection. And
it's been a great exchange.
Yeah.
We've both learned a hell of a lot.
So for me, it's not like, well, this is what I do, that's what Richard does, and we just do our own thing, but at the same time, we very much, it's how we are, it's how we are individually and together now. It's just that
absolutely.
And those moments where things apparently seem to be going wrong, or there's a confidence issue, or something's not quite happening, that's what I call the human moment, because we're then trying to make something happen, even if we're trying to make sure we stay safe, we're trying to make something happen, and we stop reading the real signs.
That's what we need to stop doing, is trying to make anything happen. So that's why we're saying in this episode, these are the steps that you can be taking right now when you next go out to your horse.
Absolutely.
Take time to just be at one with your horse. You don't have to do anything. Just spend time with your horse. Embrace it. This is a really, really, in some ways, such a gift. You put aside all the horrors going on outside in the world, or I know it's so difficult to, but let's just get back to the fact that you do have more time on your hands. So use it, and use it in that neutral gear, and spend time with your horse. Plans for? I mean, obviously, we're going to develop this series over the weeks, aren't we?
We are, and we're going to bring in all kinds of different.
We are.
Elements,
oh yes.
I think.
And we're also going to have make it more interactive, so that you at home can get in touch with us. We can have some phone-ins, some live link-ups. You can also leave messages. We'll post questions to you to come back to us that you'd like to ask. That's going to be really exciting.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to answering questions that you've got. One thing I would like to say before we finish.
Well, you're going to propose to me.
Is to just remember, not just in your relationship with your horse, but more so with your relationship with other people and your relationships at home right now, is to remember that every single person is doing the best that they can do with the knowledge and understanding that they've got of how life works.
I couldn't say it about myself.
So
absolutely,
if we
don't be hard on yourselves at this time,
and don't be hard on everybody else.
And don't be hard on your horse.
No.
You know, because your horse is a living, breathing animal that's going through experiencing this situation as well.
So love and light.
Love and light. Love and light. And get down to the field, get down into your stable, have some fun with your horse, and just be one. Connect back to that child that didn't have those expectations. Go down there and just experience it with new eyes.
Absolutely.
This opportunity that you've been given in this such fragile situation at the moment. We have to make the most of every day, guys. And that's it for me.
I think
this week. I'm excited about next week and the topic that we shall reveal later in the week.
If you've got any questions, send them off to us.
Please message
we'll answer
us.
them next week.
And how can they message us? So they can
either through the Facebook page,
or you can contact us here on YouTube.
Yeah.
Or you can access us through our separate pages. However you want to get in touch, ask some questions. In fact, let's try and put something up this week on the Perfect Partnership Facebook page, so people some questions. But also feel free to ask your own questions, and we will discuss and talk about those in the next episode.
We'll talk about the question, and then we'll give you our understanding and our viewpoint on how we see that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've all been very welcome into our home today.
Yeah.
It looks very small here. The lounge is a bit bigger than this, isn't it?
Not much.
But not much.
It's good.
But it's been a lovely experience to welcome you into our home.
Indeed.
And I hope over the series you'll get to learn a lot more about us and how we both work, and also how we can help you, which we will be doing every week.
So take care of yourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look after yourselves, look after each other.
Yeah, and stay safe.
See you all very soon.
See you all soon. Take care. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.